Hi, everyone. This is Shannon Port, and I welcome you to the Art of the Feminine podcast. It's really good to be back. I'm just getting back from a small eclipse vacation. And so I've been away for a couple weeks, and it is the first Friday video that we are doing in August. And so it's really good to be here. And it's good to see that some people got the message that I'm here and that we're on today. And so I've been away for a couple weeks. All right. And so we are going to talk about the Pisces full moon that is happening in just 2 days. And so I've titled the video The Holy Grail. And we are going to talk about the deep, deep gifts, the mystical treasures that lie deep within the unconscious and deep within the subconscious mind, represented by the archetype of Pisces. Um, I would also like to just do a few minutes um, of getting caught up on what happened, just to kind of, the last video that I did was for the lunar eclipse. So then we had the solar eclipse after that on August 11th. And then we also had, it was the solar eclipse in Leo. We also had the Lionsgate portal. And so August has been a packed month. So much happening in terms of just all the changes and all the regeneration that's taking place because of this this triple pack. We got a triple pack of eclipse energy this summer. It's summer in the northern hemisphere, and there's been a lot of change and a lot of stirring things up so that we can now talk about what we're going to talk about today, which is going into the underbelly and going into the deep, deep subconscious mind to see how things have been affected. And so I'll give you an idea. I'm so glad some of you knew I was back today. I'll give you an idea. From Dublin. I love it. I would really love to visit Dublin. So I'll give you an idea where we're gonna go, so you have an idea how this will unfold. Today I wanna start by looking at the planets and where they will be at this Pisces full moon. Sometimes I wait and I get talking, we get a little chatty about the archetypes, and I put the planets towards the end. I want to jump right into the planets. Huge, beautiful Earth Trine happening, which is amazing because Pisces taps into the inner, the deep, deep mystical underworld of our soul. But with the Earth Trine, there's the grounding in and the outer projection of what's on the inside. And so we've done all this clearing, many, many changes. I work personally with several people at one time, mentoring, and I knew it was coming. When you can see people's charts, you know what area it's going to really kind of stir things up. And sure enough, when you watch these cycles and these eclipses over many, many years and see how they affect people, they're so accurate. I mean, this is astrology is so accurate. And here we work with astrology. We also work with various different elements of the divine feminine wisdom and the metaphysical teachings. But astrology is a big part of it. That's what we're here to look at today. And so I wanted to say this about Leo and about the energies that have been stirred up, that Leo really touched upon the human heart. The last video that we did here was, I believe, called Goddess Technology. And we talked a lot about awakening the true power of the heart. And just, in fact, to just slow down for a minute here, if we are to understand, there's a lot of discord in the world right now. There's a lot of unsettledness and unease. Things are moving very quickly, very rapidly. The pace of our lives has been sped up to an almost an abnormal rate of processing information, even though we are capable of processing beyond any supercomputer. But the thing is the frequency of this information is all falling in a certain place on the frequency scale. And so the particular frequency of this inundation of information falls in an area that keeps the mind spinning. And so rather than, and this is what we're going to talk about today, rather than seeing all these images and having them really, really activate our inner world and create this rise and awakening in consciousness, there's actually kind of a frequency lock that when you are, and I've just had a massive break from technology, and I want to share a little bit about that, but it locks us in a frequency that makes it a little bit more tricky to go in. We're going to talk about that in a moment too. So what I wanted to say about the Lionsgate portal and Leo, now is really a time for individuals to be creative, to use their creativity to project it into the world from their heart. And it's not that we want to annihilate the ego, but to really neutralize the ego and use more inspiration and our relationships with the outer world, our relationships that are fueled by love and by divine love, like real. And it's not to be so far out there and talking about divine love and making it some kind of a fantasy world, but truly um, love that is grounded in caring, in kindness, in compassion, in discernment, in the ability to face what comes up, even if it's dark, even if it's tricky. Even if it's tricky, we're meant to face it. We're meant to be able to face the depths of our ugliness and darkness, and that's what Pisces shows us. The archetype for Pisces is key 18, and it's the moon. It's the dark moon, and so it's our own underbelly, it's our own pain body, it's our own shadow self. And so we don't get out of Pisces unless we look at those things within our own being that are part of our inner being, that are our shadows, our demons. It's the labyrinth of our soul when we get lost in that lower astral world where we're getting attacked by these dark entities, or where we feel like we're overtaken with the animal side of human nature. That is actually part of the Holy Grail, because it is that those elements, when they are healed, are release the power that's been trapped inside them. It's our wounds that contain the electric energy of spirit. And once those wounds are carefully faced with love, once we understand our shadow, once we understand why we do some of the things we do, that we all have secrets, we all have areas where we've been part of deception, or where we've been victims, or where we've been perpetrators, or where we've hidden information, or where we've done something that's just out of alignment. We have parts of ourselves that have addictions or vices that are there for a reason, things that we hide that we don't want people to see. Those things, when we get to know them, will reveal to us our greatest inspiration, our greatest love. And it will be such a sigh of relief to have been acquainted with that part of ourself, and really done what it takes to neutralize it, so it can open up and release it's Shakti. It's the Shakti force of the Divine Mother that's trapped in our wound. And that's why the mother is often connected with the dark silence and with the underworld, as we see. So let's look at the planets. We're going to look at some universal wisdom. We'll look at the human animal, but we'll do that right after we look at the planets. And so I'm just going to check in and say hi. Um, Hi, 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 and good to see you. All right, so let's look at what's happening at the Pisces moon. So, just to finish up on Leo, though, now is the time to be creative, to put your love into the world. There is, as we get into Pisces, we'll talk about, there is this kind of over amplification of ego and narcissism. Narcissism falls into Pisces as well. It's the dark sort of narcissistic side over vanity that we see. It kind of social media is a machine that's kind of cranking that out right now, and it's okay. It's not to, because it's never about pointing fingers and saying, "Oh, this is good, this is bad, this is," there's a whole spectrum of consciousness. Everybody will be where they need to be at a given time. However, this last push for our awakening is bringing out vanity and superficial materialism, superficial sexuality, superficial beauty, and the attachment to it from a place that isn't quite aligned with this depth that we're talking about. Beauty, amazing. Creating, amazing. Being in the world, amazing. Being seen, amazing. But the frequency that we enter from will add to the collective. And so there's been kind of a huge swing to the more superficial levels, and it's okay. We have to kind of go there. This was the time when we were going to have where everyone would become a celebrity. It's kind of like Hollywood had it, and now everyone with social media has the opportunity to get to experience that kind of self promotion and creativity and our own dramas and be seen. We all can have a taste of that, what it feels like. And then we get to go all the way into the shadow side of it. And then we get to learn from it collectively because that's now is the time for that. So, all right, let's look at, well, let's see. We've got a grand Earth trine. Okay, so we have at 3 degrees Pisces, the moon, and at 3 degrees Virgo, the sun. Next week, next Friday, I'll be doing the video for the Virgo new moon. And these two are really connected. So watch today and then tune in next Friday for the podcast because the Virgo new moon is about a purity and it's really about um, how purity and the underbelly work together. This axis is one of my favorites, Virgo and Pisces. So we have the sun in the sign of purity of the Virgin goddess of Virgo at 3 degrees, and we have the moon at 3 degrees Pisces. We still have Chiron retrograde. We've had so many planets retrograde, and we're going to get to that. Chiron is retrograde, squaring Saturn retrograde. Chiron is in Aries at 1 degree, and Saturn will be in Capricorn at 2 degrees. They've been squaring each other for a while now and will continue to be locked in that. But Chiron, the wounded healer, Saturn, the teacher, and the limitations, and the planet of grounding things in, grounding spirit through matter, but also showing us where it just doesn't work anymore. And it usually shows us in a pretty painful way because unless we're actively seeking to reinvent and restructure, Saturn's about structure, the wound is usually very pronounced and it gets kind of thrown and tossed in our face. So we have that on right now. We have Saturn. We may return to that, but Saturn and Chiron in a very tight square. We have a Grand Earth Trine. This is where we have the energy, and Saturn is part of that Grand Earth Trine. Saturn is in Capricorn retrograde, trining the sun. And this is going to be a quick Grand Earth Trine because it's the sun in Virgo at 3 degrees, Saturn in Capricorn at 2 degrees, and Uranus in Taurus at 2 degrees. This is a very, very tightly knit Earth trine. So it's on this energy of the Earth signs for grounding in. And Saturn, what's interesting about this that I was thinking about is that Uranus normally busts things free and is about liberation and revolution. Saturn brings things in, gives structure, gives form. But Saturn and Uranus in this trine are working together. And that says something. The sun is shining lots of light on both planets, and it's a harmonious Earth trine. This is big because it shows that some of the work that's happened through these eclipses and the finishing up of the Leo Aquarius axis of eclipses is going to be birthed onto the planet. We're going to get to see some of the fruits of our labors here, and we're seeing things right now. Although with so many planets retrograde, it's been slow, it's been painful. In fact, and I know I have 3 planets retrograde in my 5th house. Most of my 5th house falls in Capricorn, and there's Pluto retrograde, Mars retrograde, and Saturn retrograde. Huge creative energy is there, but getting things into the world and actually projecting outward is where it gets a little tricky, especially with Mercury had been retrograde. But now, as this Earth trine is on, we're going to start to see Mars go direct in a couple of days, and then Saturn will follow. I believe it's September. I think it's around September 9th. I might be wrong on that, but I know it's coming soon that Saturn is going to go direct. things are gonna start to change. Things are going to be birthed, and this Earth trine is starting to bring it in. We have, the moon the moon is in a beautiful sextile with Saturn. The moon in Pisces is sextiling Saturn in Capricorn and Uranus in Taurus. So that is even bringing that Earth trine into a greater potential to bring things in. So I'm telling you, watch the area around this full moon. And I there's a lot of harmony in it. So, and I even noticed with the lunar eclipse in Aquarius, these changes are happening. They haven't been as disruptive as one might have thought with Uranus squaring Mars. But I think as Mars begins to go direct, some of that energy might be projected out onto the screen. But with the moon in harmonious flow, sextiling Saturn and Uranus, it's nice. It's really good. Um, Mars direct. Mars is going to go direct in Capricorn, and it's going to soon thereafter enter into Aquarius, where it will be in a tight square with Uranus again. And there we have Uranus in Taurus. That's the Earth. I felt the tension. The tension's been on all summer, and so it kind of like settles for some people. Then it pops again. Then it settles. Then it pops. It's that underlying grindy energy. Be as smooth as you can with it. In fact, I've been getting a lot of calls from different people I'm working with. "Oh my god, this happened, this happened." It just be chill with it and watch it, observe it. Right now, to get too tangled up in it and to explode with it is especially once Mars goes direct in a couple days, you wanna observe what happens, because as Mars begins to go direct, we're gonna see it really kind of activate that square in a new way, and there could be some quick blasts. Just watch. You have so much more power when you observe and see what's happening, where the one who kind of stands back and observes has the greatest power, because then when you do act, you've seen clearly what's going on. It's that non-reactive but very decisive, discerning, precise power to speak and to act in the way we need to. Um All right. Mercury's direct. This is great. Mercury's direct in Leo, and so it's Mercury direct now in Leo is just it's just giving more of that Leo energy a voice. It's giving it a voice. It's giving forward momentum in how we communicate, how we take our creativity into the world, how we take our heart energy into the world. But Mercury is direct. Jupiter is direct. It's been direct for a while now, but trining Neptune and Pisces. So here we have the energy of Pisces, more Pisces energy with the ruler of Pisces in um, in Pisces, trining Jupiter in Scorpio. So let's just talk about that for a moment. And we mentioned this a couple of videos back, several videos back, about how Jupiter go. In fact, I did a video for Jupiter direct. Once Jupiter went direct, within days, the whole sexual revelation started again. It all started. It was like Jupiter was going backwards after we had had the Me Too movement and all of these other things coming out. Many people being called out for, inappropriate things happening just about everywhere, which they are just about everywhere on the earth. And we'll talk about that from a non-judgmental place in just a moment. But now we have Jupiter direct in alignment with all the eclipses have passed now. It's time that a whole new level of revelations is coming. And I believe the Pisces full moon activates the ruler of Pisces, Neptune. It activates what has been hidden, the deception, the manipulation, the victims. Pisces also is children. It's going to, but it's also along with that going to give us solutions and clarity, how we're going to reinvent the animal human and bring us more into our divinity, how we're going to marry our divinity with our humanity. And that's really in tune with the Pisces archetype. The Scorpio archetype we talked about a lot recently, but it's very much about sexuality and power. And so with Jupiter now trining, Jupiter direct trining Neptune, and all these things starting to happen, there's going to be another platform for another round of us uncovering where we went so wrong, where human consciousness just became the animal, and how it's a slippery slope. I was thinking about this as well. I was thinking about this. Um, we think that we are so sophisticated. So we think that I'm going to step back a little for this. We think that we're so sophisticated as humanity. And especially now, spirituality is everywhere. It's all over. All the hidden teachings are out. We have all this technology, all this power, all this ability to communicate. But we mustn't forget that not very long ago, we have had human atrocities and things happen like slavery, for one, brutal slavery, like World War II and the concentration camps and all things and these things are not only happening back then, they're happening now. We have these things very much alive on our planet now, which is so I mean, just the crazy part about it is that the very same things that took place back then are taking place now, but we tend to only we've been kind of steered to keep locked on something in the past rather than to see the same things that are happening now in our world, but not for long. Um, the Crusades, the burning of witches, the things in Salem. I mean, these things are not that far in our past. The capacity for the human being to slip into that unconscious, animalistic, carnal, dark moon, which is the shadow side of Pisces, the shadow body, collectively are never far away. We are never in, as long as we're in this dimension, the third dimension, even the fourth, we're never very far from that, even in our own lives. And so we have to see how we deal with our own shadow in order to understand when we know how much we can slip into our own shadow so easily when you're having a rough day or things go whenever it is. I mean, all of us can slip into our shadow and find ourselves saying things or doing things and be like, oh my goodness, that's not where I'm at anymore any longer. I'm not there any longer, but it can happen. And then we have ways of dealing with that and moving on if we're awake enough. But we have to remember that these things aren't very far in our past. So we need to be vigilant and we need to be creative. We need to keep creating. So here we go. This is right in alignment with the Jupiter trine Neptune. Venus will be squaring Pluto. Venus in Scorpio. I think this is big. It's a quick transit, but I think this is big. Venus is going to be in Scorpio at 18 degrees. 18 is the archetype of Pisces. Key 18 is Pisces. Venus will be at 18 degrees of Scorpio. This is the degree of deception, the degree of the victim, the degree of the law of suggestion being turned on consciousness to create illusions and false realities and false light. And Venus rules light and pleasure and that charismatic kind of beauty and pleasure and glamour. Venus rules vanity. Venus rules even the shadow sides of the feminine, which include vanity and narcissism and possessiveness and all the different things that go along with the shadow side of the feminine that we all contain within us. Venus will be squaring Pluto. Pluto is retrograde in Capricorn, in the sign of the patriarchy, in the sign of our standard institutions that we live by now. And Venus is in Scorpio, power, sexuality. Jupiter will be direct. Venus is at 18. Jupiter is going to be direct at 16. They're conjunct. So Jupiter and Venus will be conjunct. Um, I think I just said that wrong. Venus, and I apologize. Venus will be in Libra. And oh my God, I'm going to have to come back and check it out. But I'm thinking Jupiter. Venus is in Libra at 18 degrees. So Venus is not in Scorpio. Venus is still in charge of all those things. She just won't be in Scorpio conjunct Jupiter. Venus is in Libra. So let's talk about Libra. Just to scratch that, Venus is in Libra, which is balance, justice, harmony, equilibrium. This is even better because this is the artist and Venus is the artist and so is Pisces. Pisces is the artist too. So but still calling out justice. It's just not the underworld of Scorpio. She's going to be squaring Pluto from Libra and Pluto and Venus are going to be head on. That's calling out some sexual um it's calling out power, it's calling out sexual abuse, it's calling out regeneration, rebirth, new beginning. And because she's in Libra, it's about harmony and balance and the good. Venus rules Libra. And so um she's powerful there, very powerful there. All right. We said Mars will be direct. Mars, Pluto, and Saturn, though, all retrograde. Mars has like a day or two after the moon in Capricorn is very potent energy in Capricorn. That's Capricorn being really pulled in so that whatever we need to see in our world, it's time for us to see it. All right. So again, the planets are starting to go direct. There were 7 planets retrograde at one time. And I think that's it. Yeah, I think that's it. I think we said enough about where the planets are out. Now let's talk a little bit about Scorpio. Just taking a look. I'm kind of getting warmed up. I know. Kind of getting warmed up and kind of back familiar again. I'll be back every week starting next Friday again. Okay, so Neptune, Pisces. Let's talk about what really is Neptune. Let's talk about the archetype of the moon. Key 18. It's the underbelly. This is and the Hebrew letter is Kof. Kof. Kof is Qoph. It represents the back of the head right here. The meaning of it is monkey or cycles. And the tree of life, it's Dath, and it represents knowledge. This is the letter, the Hebrew letter for key 18, the moon, and it represents karma because it's our knowledge and our words and how we use our knowledge is what either creates more bondage or more liberation. It's a very, very deep and potent energy, this energy of Pisces and this energy of the moon and Kof. It is the portal to all healing and wisdom and takes us straight into the depths of the abyss. It really does because the moon contains the abyss that lies between us. It's that labyrinth that lies between us and the Holy Grail. So let's shift on to this Holy Grail. What is it, and how do we claim it? The Grail is truly when we release the Mother Force, the Holy Spirit within us. That happens just to talk in plain English. That happens when we face our wounds, when we face our shadow. A lot of people say that. So, what does facing our shadow look like? It's a creative process. It's not about becoming a victim or becoming overwhelmed, although there's cycles and sometimes we seem overwhelmed. We have to see where we've been deceived and we have to see where we deceive. And that just came out, but I'm hearing it now. That is the number one thing to face our wounds and our shadow. That we have to see with all our heart, and 8 is very, very connected with Pisces because 8 is the number of the heart, 18 is Pisces, and we just had all the Lionsgate portal and the solar eclipse in Leo. That's 8. That's so all the 8 goes very strongly in the heart with Pisces. We have to use the heart, and we have to use our poetry, our mysticism. We have to be artists. We have to become real artists in our lives. We have to take the shadow and work it into our painting so that it accentuates what is good and beautiful. So there's a lot of reversals happening. The other archetype for Pisces is Neptune, which is key 12. The hangman, which represents the ultimate victim, but it represents the ultimate surrender. These are so beautiful. They're so beautiful. The hangman is Neptune. The Hebrew letter is Mem. Mem is one of the 3 mother letters. This is a mother lode of power in Mem. Neptune inverts us. It takes us upside down. If you look at the hangman, he's upside down. His consciousness has dropped below into this abyss. And he's retrieving that Shakti force, the solar light and solar seeds that are trapped in it. It takes some surrender. It takes some allowing for a complete reversal of the order. That's what we're doing right now on Earth right now. There's a complete reversal and surrender happening. And so as we get going now into the fall, we're going to start to talk about seasons are changing right now. We're going to start to talk about what that's going to look like, what that means for us, because in this world, there's everything is just crazy. It's like there's so much happening, and we have our good days and we have our hard days, and we in many changes from these eclipses. So how do we use these archetypes to understand the goodies, to understand the Holy Grail? The Holy Grail is when we become the true co-creator from our own well within. The other thing about that, though, is that we learn to not dissociate from the outer world. We learn to, oh, thank you. Thank you. Good slip, though. Thank you. And I appreciate you letting me know that right away so I can say that. Yes, Venus is at 18 degrees Libra. It seems so right, but it's even better in Libra. And she's going into, in fact, thank you for pointing that out, because Libra, Venus is going to go into Scorpio and then from Libra, and then she's going to retrograde. I mean, separate video for that. Separate video. I'll do that video in 2 weeks. That's going to be really fun to look at when she's retrograding out of Scorpio. I mean, that's when the you know what's going to hit the fan big time, big time, big time. So, all right, let's look at what Neptune and Pisces rules, because Mem, the Hebrew letter Mem, represents the waters in the underworld. It's consciousness, and it rules really the physical world. On the tree of life, Mem is down here low with the earth, and it's our underbelly, it's our shadow, it's our life force, it's the physicality of the world. It's the power of water. It's one part of the lunar power as well. A lot to be said about that. So let's look at a few more. I've got to wrap this up quick, but we're going to look at Neptune and Pisces. Pisces is mysticism, spirituality. It's teachers of spirituality. Also, another thing being highlighted here is that there's a lot of spirituality in the world today, and we don't have time to go into this, and I've touched on it in other videos, but there's a lot of spirituality. The deep hidden teachings are now out and they're everywhere, which means anyone can pick up a book or check out a few websites or a few videos and start talking about them. And wonderful. This is the time where the floodgates are open. But it means more than ever that we need to understand how we relate with others, how we relate with teachers, spiritual teachers, even masters, because the paradigm is changing. We'll talk more about that in another video, to really empower the individual. The age of Aquarius that we're entering into is really about the individual having access to that underworld through meditation and through the archetype of Aquarius, which is the star. We talked about that in the last video, which is turning ourselves into meditation to draw up. We talked about this, the solar seeds. It's very similar to, that's what Pisces is. So Pisces rules insane asylums and prisons and mental institutions, hospitals. It rules things also that lock us up. So what that's showing us is that Pisces can, if we don't deal with our own underbelly, our own body of pain, it will lock us up. We will be prisoners of our own consciousness. That's why Pisces rules insane asylums, mental institutions, prisons, hospitals. Those are places where we become imprisoned in the 3D world based on choices, based on all different kinds of reasons, based on abuse, based on deception, based on being victims, based on our own flaws and folly, our own shadow. But that tells us something that rules art and creativity and beauty and poetry and music and screenplays and paintings and all of these things. It can bind us or it can liberate us. Now is the time, with this Grand Earth Trine, to be liberated. We've had all this energy of the heart, of the heart, sending out our love and what we really envision. The trick is to just live by the universal wisdom as much as you can. This isn't preaching, because this is not a time to preach. And I wanted to finish with the eightfold path of Buddha. And I'm not a teacher of this eightfold path, but I want to touch on some of these things because this is universal wisdom. If is we just this is now is a time more than ever to live in integrity, make good choices. Don't be afraid to fail. If you fail, the best part about failing is you can look at it, learn from it, and keep going. Now more than ever is a time to be aligned with integrity, good service that's a win-win situation. We serve through our gifts. It's not slave labor, it's real service, it's creativity. And now is the time to be aligned with in kindness and compassion and being as not being reactive. We in fact, I want to say this. I'm writing the um Akashic Insight newsletter is going out on Monday or Tuesday after this weekend, and the topic for my next newsletter is healing the emotional body. It's going to be a whole writing about healing the emotional body because that's what we're doing. So sometimes we need to blow up and go crazy and have our breakdowns, our meltdowns. But really, now as we heal those things, the one who has some good containment will be the one with power. We'll get into that with Virgo and the Virgo new moon, but we need to do some of this work. We need to grow up and use our creativity and use it to benefit ourselves and others. Um, this isn't about being a Pollyanna, being a goody goody, being a like only good and no shadow, because we will always have some shadow. But it's about bringing the whole collective into a little bit higher place. Um, good. So right now what we're doing is we're healing our body of pain. And that's what Pisces gives us direct access to. Think about it. Cough, we talked about that. The entry into knowledge is the entry into the abyss. Thinking about the hangman and suspending our addiction to the outer world to go into the inner world. And that's really what this archetype is about, that this world is almost coming to shut down the conscious part of our inner plane. Will not work. If you want to keep going, you're going to have to do a little bit of both. You're going to have to be in the world and work in the world because that's the divine feminine. We don't shy away from the world. We love the world. We love relationships. We love creativity. We don't even mind technology. We don't mind politics. We don't mind any of it because it's the world. And part of being creators is what we've created, but we never ever let go of understanding the silence and the stillness, the teachings of Advaita and Zen. And those are all very valid when they're married and coupled with our own brilliance and creativity. So we don't want to be, if we don't create, we can be controlled very easily. If we don't own our own creative power, we can be controlled. I think I'm going to start to close that out. So remember, the land of the internal creative plane is very big right now. Think of an artist. So the archetype is the artist for Pisces. It's my favorite. The artist has, so here's a couple stories and then I'll do the April path and we'll close out. So the, oh, okay, it's been a half hour. I had my time off. Okay, so I was thinking we had gone for an hour. So the artist has open boundaries because when you think of Pisces and the artist, you think of something very fluid where water flows in and flows out because the artist wants to be able to have its receptors to be able to pick up the spirit in nature. I'm looking out on my beautiful land right outside my window, and nature, we have to be open to receive. So the artist is very, very it has the empath qualities and is able to receive and to really merge with, and we need that as spiritual beings. But if you are an artist, whether it's a performing artist, whether it's a fine artist, any kind of creative artist or creator knows you have to be open, but you have to be able to create boundaries or you will never, and shut out the world, or you will never know the spark that's going to bring it all onto the canvas. If you're living in this mush, this mishmash of all this technology, all this deception, all this sexual exploitation, and if you're living your life that way, good luck in really being able to birth a masterpiece. The masterpiece comes when we know that the inner life is as potent as the outer. Remember, this world does almost everything, and that is the inner, that is part of the Holy Grail. We will claim our inner grail when we understand that silence and depth within us is there, but only each one of us individually can explore it. Nobody, not a therapist, not anyone, nobody can do it for you. They can point the direction towards you. And a lot of the work I do in the mentoring is just that profound, to have blocks just break up, things that you were holding you. I had some personal stories, but I'm going to save them for next video, because about my own blocks. When they break up, you have the energy that comes is the Holy Grail. It's your own life force, and it's the Divine Mother. It's the awakening of the sun inside you. So this is a time when we need to stay deep, pure, poetic, authentic, grounded, effective in this kind of shallow ego world, but connect with what's good. And don't, it's not about looking down and frowning upon everything that's like being above it. It's just about navigating your own path, knowing what you need so that you can do your business and get on with it. Addressing the collective, if that's part of your work, but mostly coming into your power. Each and every soul that comes into their power is a gift to this planet. So again, the dark side of sexuality being exposed, coming out, all of it's happening. The things that, in fact, I have a podcast. There should be about 12 recordings on this, and there's a playlist on this channel called The New Human Sexual Paradigm that goes. I spent a whole year talking about some of those things if you're interested. There's a few other playlists as well with a lot of information pertaining to all of these things. Deception doesn't work any longer. Don't be a deceiver. Don't deceive people. Don't exploit people. Don't take something from another person if you wouldn't want somebody to take that thing from you. That's a good way to live. In this, if you're going to do something or take something from another, ask yourself, would I want somebody to take that from me? And look at the whole situation, but really, really treat others in the way that you want to be treated. Embody it, and be creative. Get really creative, and you will be great. So here's that we'll close on this. The Eightfold Path of Buddha. I don't have any artist quotes today, so this is what we'll do. So just your views, have views, and make them the right views for you, but have some views. It's important to take views. And if you can't be just totally open and blissed out, we have to see what's in this painting that we've created. Take the right actions and have the right aspirations to do what is going to contribute, and don't be afraid to do that. Speak with authenticity, with love, with gentleness, with power. Learn how to use your gift through the power of your words. We've done lots and lots of work around that here, and I've written a lot about that. But right living, live in a way that's right for you. Another thing is that don't be overly concern. There's a lot of different things telling you this is the way to eat, this is the way to live, this is the way to do it, this is the way to have your home, this is the way. Do what's right for you. Don't let somebody else's voice tell you, because the same, there's universal wisdom, but everyone needs to eat the way that their body, start with what their body needs. Everybody needs to practice spirituality in a way that begins to stimulate their heart without handing their power over to someone else. This Pisces also rules some of the spiritual teachers that are absorbing too much of people's individual power. Um, be mindful and contemplate what you do. The best way to heal our inner shadow is to be reflective, and really don't be afraid to look at it. Don't be afraid at the end of each day to say, all right, this is how my day was. I could do better here. Really liked this, and just learn from it. And then it can shed, you can let it go, and use your creativity, because your creativity, when you're doing what you're meant to do, it will absolutely be your teacher. It will teach you where you are strong, where you are a little bit compromised or lacking, where your wounds are. Commit to your own path, and you will have your teacher birthed right from within you, your own Holy Grail. And so, that being said, I'm going to close out. Thank you for those of you that were able to join me here live. We'll be back every Friday again. So, starting our fall sessions, meet me every Friday. Still getting kind of getting it down what the time will be, but it will be sometimes on Friday. Subscribe to the channel and you'll get the notification when we go live and have the opportunity to participate. And we'll keep growing this as we go. And so that being said, I wish you powerful, beautiful, mystical, poetic full moon in Pisces. And I will see you next week for the Virgo new moon.